Councilor Safari?
Here.
Councilor Will?
Let me here.
Councilor Brown?
Here.
Councilor Gallagher?
Here.
Councilor Sheldon?
Here.
Councilor Williams?
That's all right.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I don't believe we have any silence. No sign-ups for participation and the reports from boards and commissions. So I'll move on to item 6A through E. Letter of council activities. I will say that there was some issue on the IGAs in some packets. The memo had 98 for the wrong entity, but the memos are all correct. The IGAs are all correct. In some of the packets.
So I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Those approved. Next, we move on to new business. 9A. So we'll hear from Jay.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Before you this evening is a preliminary petition for the vacation of certain bridal paths submitted by Kent Theory and Denise O'Leary, representatives of 30 O'Leary Living Trust, owners of 2 and 4 Canto Lane. The request is depicted, I'm supposed to be in it. Are your screens working?
Yep.
The request is depicted on a map on your screen. Chapter 11, Article 5 of the City Code outlines the process for the vacation of right-of-ways. The process is outlined as follows. Any interested person may submit to the city manager a written preliminary petition requesting that City Council consider the vacation of rights-of-ways located within the city. The City Council shall determine whether the requested vacation possesses sufficient merit to justify the petitioner's preparation and submission of a formal petition and the processing of such formal petition in accordance with this article. If the City Council's decision that the preliminary petition lacks sufficient merit to justify further consideration, this shall constitute a legislative finding that the requested vacation is not in the public interest and the petition is rejected. If City Council finds that the petition has merit, the process moves on to the formal petition. The City Council's decision that the preliminary petition possesses sufficient merit to justify further consideration shall only authorize the further processing of a formal petition for vacation. Such decision shall not constitute a finding or imply that the vacation will be approved following such further consideration. The bridle path easements that are subject to this petition are located within 2 platted subdivisions. There are 3 bridle path easements on 2 Canetto Lane. One easement runs north-south along the property line adjacent to 4 Canetto. One runs east-west along the north property line, and the other runs east-west along the south property line. The easement on 2 Canetto Lane were dedicated to the city in 1996 via the late Canetto plat. The petition also depicts 2 bridle path easements on 4 Canetto Lane, which were created by the 1964 Canetto plat. Staff is seeking decision from City Council as whether the requested vacation possesses sufficient merit to justify the petitioner's preparation and submission of a formal petition. At this time, staff can answer any questions that City Council may have, and the petitioner would also like to address City Council in this matter.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to hear from the applicant.
We can do that on, applicant is present on Zoom.
Hello?
Yes.
Would you, is this the time that you would like me to speak or not?
You have the floor. You state your name and address.
Sure. Kent Theory, 2 Cantato Lane in Cherry Hills Village. And
Thank you.
should I proceed?
You may proceed.
Okay, thank you very much. And first, Denise, my wife, wishes she could be here, but we're in Wisconsin at our little family cottage and celebrating 2 sisters' birthdays. And so she's down there with 7 guests. So I apologize for that, but you're stuck with me. And my objective in being here is not to talk through all the legal arguments in one direction or another, but rather to just talk about some of the other practical considerations. And I want to thank you for giving us this time. Very much appreciate it. We've lived there about 7, 8 years or so. And I guess I'd make 5 points. Number one, no one has ever used these. I literally think it's no one ever. And if you look at some of the bushes and in fact, some of the trees, it's clear in many cases, it's obvious that nothing's been used for way, way longer than that. Second, that they've never been maintained in any way by anyone other than what we've done since we moved in. It's just a part of the general area. Third, that a number of them have dead ends, that there's no reasonable or useful access. And so there couldn't be, practically speaking, any use. And in fact, one of the lines on your map that is a solid line, our understanding is in fact not a solid line, but again, put that aside. But a number of them, just practically speaking, would never make sense for anybody to use. And number 4, there's some great alternatives that are close by. If you look at that map, you're looking at the red line that goes horizontally at the bottom, at the south side. You see a little black line just underneath it along the left-hand side. That is an existing trail with a bridge that goes over to the Highline Canal. So it's, and that's, it got separate access. And then if you just proceed in the Highline Canal for maybe a 6-minute walk or so, you get to where there's another bridge for access. And so there's some great proximate alternatives that connect to hikes that are part of continuous trails and in a continuous part of the system. And then lastly, number 5, I don't think, without getting super creative or buying a bunch of land, there could ever, if there was access and if anybody wanted to use it, despite the other alternatives, to ever have any kind of parking. But I think the biggest practical reasons to me is that they've never been maintained. There's never been anyone there. And a bunch of them, practically speaking, would never be used by anyone because there's better alternatives in every way. So that is it. And again, I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Good evening. I am Amy Brima, and my address is 1888 Sherman Street, Suite 200, Denver 80203, and I am Kenton Denise's attorney. I would like to thank you for hearing our petition. Kent has discussed the history and the use of the property and the related bridle path easements that the city may have an interest in. We would ask that you consider our petition pursuant to Article 5, Section 11.510 of the Cherry Hills Village Municipal Code to vacate the discussed unused bridle path easements that may encumber 2 and 4 Cantato Lane. We meet the criteria for the preliminary petition to proceed for vacation on the merits, and we also meet the criteria for the ordinance to pass. First, the vacation of the bridle path easements that the city may have an interest in serves the public interest. as there has been no use by the public of the easements and there has been no maintenance of the easements by Cherry Hills Village. The easements that may exist for public use are without any value to the public or to Cherry Hills Village, as they are not usable and are undeveloped. More importantly, they do not connect with any other existing easements allowing for use of the easements. Finally, there is no public access to the easements that the city may have an interest in. The second criteria is related to vehicular access, and vacation of these bridle path easements would not vacate any vehicular access to any other property. Thus, the vacation will not leave any property without an established public road or private access easement connecting with another established public road. We understand the requirements of the formal petition and are prepared to proceed if the City Council determines that the preliminary petition has merits to justify further consideration. Please consider this our formal request to move forward with the petition. Thank you for your time and consideration. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Questions from the applicant, for the applicant? Councilor Gallagher?
City Attorney, I do have questions. I think this warrants, the questions, can we move into executive session?
Well, there's, for what purpose are you seeking legal advice?
Excuse me?
For legal advice?
For legal advice, yeah, on our property interests pertaining to the city run paths.
That's a right that's afforded to this council under the open meeting law. So if you'd like to make a motion to that effect, then it will require the vote, and we'll see if that motion passes.
I move to go into executive session under section 24-6-402 4B Colorado Revised Statutes to receive legal advice on specific legal questions regarding the city's real property interests pertaining to city run paths.
We have a motion stated. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have any discussion on the motion? I think this is a roll call vote. We need unanimous. No?
Two-thirds.
2/3, that's correct. Okay, roll call.
Councilor Sapati?
Yes.
Councilor Wu?
Yes.
Councilor Brown?
Yes.
Councilor Gallagher?
Yes.
Councilor Sheldon?
Yes.
Okay, for those in the audience, this means we're going to take a short recess for an executive session. We'll do that back in chambers. We endeavor to be prompt to return.
Thank you.
There's paper copies of it out there.
I'm gonna go out on the veranda.
Have a cigarette.
Yeah, it doesn't let you in unless you drop it.
Oh, I know. That's what.
Yes, ma'am, don't forget it.
I don't want
That
to
phone,
go.
that phone. No, but, yeah.
No, it's not.
Food truck thing on Sunday, is that for young people with the band? Yeah.
Can I turn the podium microphone on? Yeah.
Okay, the time is now 18. Executive session concluded. Executive session were all council except council one. As well. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me try again. Time is now 7:18, and executive session is concluded. The participants in the executive session were all council members present here today, and that's not even Council Plum, also the city manager, and also Director Goldie, and our city attorney. For the record, if anybody believes that anything in the executive session is not going to, not legal or doing things and otherwise improper, please let me know. State it for the record now. Otherwise, we are going to continue with the meetings. And now it's the pleasure of council to proceed. So we're Sean.
If it pleases the rest of council, I'd like to make a motion unless there's further discussion at this time.
Is there any other discussion before he makes a motion? We can discuss that.
I have one comment that I'd like to make, just before we call the vote. I appreciate the work that has gone into this proposal and understand the intent behind it. But for me personally, I just want to state that I think the master plan and the citizens of Cherry Hills Village have repeatedly expressed the importance of trails and open space to the city of Cherry Hills Village. And personally, I cannot support any action to vacate public trails. So just wanted to add that to explain a vote that's probably about to come.
Any other comments, Councilor? Councilor Sheldon, then you'd like to make a motion.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the city council finds that the preliminary petition possesses sufficient merit to justify further consideration and authorizes the further processing of a formal petition for vacation, noting that such decision does not constitute a finding or imply that the vacation will be approved following such further consideration.
Second. A motion, a second. Any further discussion? All right, I think this is just a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
It passes. 9A preliminary petition passes. We'll now take up agenda item 9B and city management. I think we're going to have some need to work on the computer here for the presentations. Please bear with us. This will be the public hearing on Cherry Hills Country Club site plan amendment application and conditional use application for clubhouse renovation.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. There are two cases before you tonight regarding a site plan amendment and a conditional use permit for a proposed clubhouse renovation at the Cherry Hills Country Club. Just a little bit of background. The applicant is the Cherry Hills Country Club, is the owner, located at 4125 South University, for the lot that is zoned O1. Provide, and just to check, council can see this on their screens, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Although that one, these don't seem to be advancing. I'm going to share one more time because it's not advancing from my screen. Sorry. So we are unable to get the full screen on your monitors, so in these interesting times, we will have to adapt and use the regular setting. So hopefully that works very well. But again, as background, the applicant is Cheryl's Country Club for the property at 4125 South University, and that property is zone 1. This shows the context of the project. Obviously, the parcels, the two main parcels for the country club are located off of University, but the extent of both processes tonight really just covers the clubhouse itself, which is just a very small percentage of the overall almost 170 acres of the two properties. The request relates to the clubhouse, as I mentioned, just as a brief bit of background on the clubhouse itself. It was originally constructed in 1922. And then more recently, the northern portion of the clubhouse, containing all the golf operations, locker rooms, food and beverage facilities, were remodeled in 2005 and then again in 2012. The southern portion of the clubhouse, though, has not been remodeled. The applicant reports that that southern portion is the least functional and has become both operationally and functionally obsolete. And therefore, their project seeks to replace and slightly enlarge the south end of the clubhouse and modify and repave the main parking lot. So to complete that action, they will be required to complete two processes. One is a site plan amendment, and the second is a conditional use permit. The site plan amendment has an associated development agreement that goes along with that. I should note for the record that the exhibit containing the agreement in your packet titled the agreement site plan amendment. That really stems from some of the nomenclature that exists in the code that has multiple development agreement listed. To end that confusion about the different types of development agreements, we are going to change the title of this one to be development agreement for the version that will eventually be executed. The proposed renovation, again, is primarily dealing with the structure itself, the building renovation. With it being such a historic structure, it is being proposed to maintain the historic Tudor design, the original design of the building. And this new south wing is going to have two levels, just like the existing south wing. It's going to include lounges, meeting rooms, kitchen, bars, offices, banquet facilities. The clubhouse, the main entrance that everyone is familiar with today, is going to be shifted slightly to the north and will include a porte-cochere. There is going to be a new secondary south entrance that will allow guests and members to go straight from the parking lot into the banquet facilities. There's also a reconfiguration of the outdoor terraces on the west, the mountain-facing side, and the southern patio sides to allow for more outdoor gathering space for socializing and events. As a portion of this project, they are also redesigning the delivery area so that it will actually be on a ramp to a subgrade area, which will greatly reduce the visual impacts of all those delivery and trash services for the building. Just to see the actual proposed renovation on top of an aerial, you can see on this drawing the northern portion that is not being affected is to the north here, and then really it's everything to the south. The northern entrance, the porte-cochere entrance is here, the new southern entrance being located here, and then with the outdoor space being along the western and southern portions. This is the ramped delivery and trash area. You can also see from this that the pool and going all the way over to the tennis areas are not impacted, as well as the golf course itself. For For comparison sakes, this is a helpful slide in that it shows the changes that are going to be occurring on the site. So the black line shows the extent of the proposed renovated area, and the gray underneath is what's there today. So you can see from this comparison that there are some areas where the proposed clubhouse will go out further than the existing, but there are other areas where the existing goes out further than the proposed. You can also see from this the parking area and the added parking spaces that are being included to the east. There's some reconfiguration of the existing parking, and so these are not all new net parking spaces. Included some elevations to give a feel for the architectural style that the south renovation is going to have. You can see the northern existing areas and then the southern portions that are going to be renovated looking seamless and maintaining that historical character that has been so integral to the community. So first, I just want to provide some analysis on the conditional use permit. This is a little bit simpler between the two processes. This is primarily laid out in the findings. There are 3 findings, with the second having 3 options or sub-findings below it. The first is talking about the proposed development or use being compatible and physically functional with the surrounding community. Staff and planning and zoning found this to be affirmative, and that the existing building area, having been a part of the semi-rural character of the community due to its location far away from the property lines, is consistent and it preserves the semi-rural character of the neighborhood. The second option has 3 different ways to meet that particular finding related to health, safety, and welfare. And staff and planning and zoning found that all 3 of those actually were affirmative. The shape and nature of the site is consistent with health, safety, and welfare. And given, again, this is primarily a replacement for what's there, it maintains the current massing on the site and doesn't substantially change that. The second item relates to accessibility and traffic, and the parking and points of access are not expected to change due to the proposed caps on membership that exist in the development agreement. I will refer to that more in just a moment, the development agreement that is. The third relates to landscaping, screening, and unobstructed open space, surface areas, and lighting. As I mentioned, a lot of the existing landscaping and screening and open space will remain. Some of the surface areas will actually improve and you will see less of. And then from a tree perspective, they are removing, I think it's 36 trees, but are proposing to replace it with 41. Finally, the last one is that the proposed use will comply with all applicable zoning district regulations and standards. And this proposal does meet all setback, bulk plan regulations, and initial drainage standards that we reviewed. So that covers that for the analysis that the planning and zoning did for the conditional use permit. The site plan analysis does have a little bit more information to it. First, the site plan looks less at the use and more at how the site is designed. So there's more elements that we'll cover in this one. First, the bulk standards. I want to highlight this in the staff report. The table that was dropped into your staff report included, I'm not sure what happened, to be honest with you. It does not include the correct setbacks. The setbacks that you see here on your screen are the correct setbacks. They far exceed all setbacks that we require. It is so interior to the site, which again, I think gets to the overall fit within the neighborhood and its impacts on the surrounding area. There's also
clarification, because I was thinking,
yes.
maybe my estimation of distances is really off.
I'm glad to reaffirm everyone's instincts that you're all correct. Lighting is another element that we looked at to ensure the site plan is consistent with applicable codes. Myself and the applicant have spent quite a bit of time going over the lighting fixture by fixture to determine its compatibility with our lighting standards. we certainly can talk about specifics on the site plan that you see here. But in short, it does comply with all of our dark sky standards. All the fixtures, especially those parking fixtures and a lot of the other ones, do have a full cutoff design and lumen limits. There are a few decorative lights and landscape accent lights that are listed as exceptions in our lighting standards for the cutoff design. And we have noted those here, but we did talk through those, and they certainly are decorative in nature, often framing doors and breaking up large expanses of wall space, not there to necessarily provide a functional pedestrian or parking lot. From a stormwater and drainage perspective, there was a preliminary drainage analysis that was included. And based on, again, this is a massive site, and the amount of new impervious area, which I think is just over 9,000 square feet, represents a tiny fraction of their overall site. And so it's really hard to talk through the math. And so the existing detention facilities, the preliminary analysis showed that it can absolutely handle the increase in impervious surface. The in-depth analysis that would typically occur with the building permit will follow up to clarify or confirm that that analysis is correct, as well as finalize the design for water quality requirements that will exist. As I mentioned, the site plan does have a development agreement associated with it. This is similar to the expanded use permit agreements that were in place prior that authorized a parking reduction request that the country club has on it today. The proposed development agreement outlines the management for special events. These are not larger PGA events. These are the annual events like July 4th, et cetera. It also includes a parking reduction request. The applicant, before I get into this too much, I do want to highlight that Kinley Horn, our representative Jeremiah, is here also to help us answer. He is a parking specialist and has been extremely helpful through this process. And so he was able to provide some insight during planning and zoning, and he's here again tonight. Should there be questions about parking and the parking studies that we did. But at a high level, the applicants are requesting a 47% parking reduction. There is a total of 6 additional net stalls in total that are being added. There is the increase in the square footage, but the applicant agrees to cap the total membership at 720 to ensure limits on parking demand. I do know that there are often questions about the categories of membership that relate to these agreements to cap, and I will probably request that the applicants help clarify that for us. But that parking or that membership cap was key for us on our recommendation to P&Z about the parking reduction. We were supportive, and the Planning and Zoning Commission was supportive of the conclusion that the proposed 328 parking spaces can adequately accommodate the anticipated parking demand. We did that through some parking analysis and parking studies that the applicant provided, which was interesting in these COVID times of doing parking counts when we have reduced guests in a parking lot. And so the applicant really went all out on providing a lot of historical data about how those have been used with the existing membership caps that are in place. So site plan approval also has findings that are in place, and they are slightly different, although there's a little bit of overlap on some of these. But planning and zoning did find that all 6 of these were affirmative. It is consistent with the master plan. It does comply with all city ordinances. The bulk and scale of the proposed expansion is consistent with the site and does not materially change the physical character or function of the surrounding area. And again, given that this is primarily a replacement and just a slight reconfiguration, P&Z felt that was affirmative. The drainage systems are designed to use natural and low maintenance best management practices. Again, because the existing detention facility is able to accommodate the increased impervious area, there is really virtually no new drainage impact from that perspective. The proposed development will not result in any unreasonable traffic congestion and create a safety hazard. No new accesses are proposed and no traffic increases are forecasted through this project. And finally, construction will be timed and staged to minimize impacts on adjacent residential properties. And there will be a construction staging plan that will be required to be submitted with the building permit. But the applicants have taken a lot of care in trying to understand and plan for how to phase this construction with the continued usage of the site itself. I'm sure they can talk to you more detail. They're making plans far beyond what our construction staging permit requires about how the site can continue to function while it's being worked on. So the public notice for these two hearings was provided 15 days beforehand. The property was posted and notice was mailed to all property owners within 1,000 feet of the subject property. And will probably go down as the largest mailing that any applicant might have for the next few years. It was mighty large. To date, no public comment was received, and on July 14th, Planning and Zoning heard both of these cases and unanimously recommended approval for the request by Cherry Hills Country Club for conditional use permit and site plan, including an associated development agreement for a clubhouse renovation. So staff is available for any questions you may have, and the applicant will also have their own presentation after the question and answers.
Very good. Councilor Sheldon.
Look forward to the applicant's presentation. Nothing now.
I would echo that.
Any other questions? Councilor Brown.
Same.
All right, we'll hear from the applicant.
Chris, if you could end your screen sharing.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can. Thank you. You're welcome. Please state your name and address. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the Cherry Hills Village City Council. My name is Bill Bergner. I am the co-chair of the Clubhouse Committee for Cherry Hills Country Club. I want to thank you for your time and consideration of this application this evening. I also want to thank the staff for all the work that they've done on this application. I'd like to make some introductory comments, but before I do that, I'd like to make some brief introductions of those from our club who are behind me. I would ask that you just raise your hand if I call your name. My co-chair of this committee is John Woodward. Our current president, Blake Fisher. Our president-elect, Dave Lee. Our general manager, Torsten Law. Our architect with Mark Finley Architects, Jay Valet. Our construction manager, Chris Lees. Our civil engineer from HKS Engineering, John Stafford. I'd also like to recognize Mark Dorman, who is a member of the club, a board member, and an adjoining neighbor of the club and a supporter of this project. And I'd also like to recognize Mr. and Mrs. Nick Hackstock, who are not here this evening, but are they're members and adjoining property owners on our south side and also supporters, and we have written confirmation of their support with us tonight. Also included in the room are some Cherry Hills member supporters who are also residents of the village. Mrs. Joan Waddles, Mr. Mike Compa, Mr. Buzz Coble, and Mr. Frank Hutto. In 2022, which is not very far off, we'll reach our 100-year anniversary at Cherry Hills Country Club. A portion of our clubhouse was actually built close to 100 years ago, a very small portion. A substantial portion, however, is more than 60 years old. It was assembled in segments with various basement substructures with different heights. This lack of uniformity prevents us from considering a renovation of the south wing, which would utilize our current basement structure. As you might imagine today, our programming needs for a typical member are quite different than the programming needs for a member 60 years ago. We need modern, as an example, on just a short list, we have a long list. We need modern childcare facilities. modern fitness facilities. We need improved dining and meeting spaces. We need more efficient back of the house facilities such as kitchens and so forth. Our club, in addition to our programming needs, our clubhouse maintenance and repair costs are increasing at an alarming rate, at a rate that is not sustainable going forward. Our annual repair and maintenance costs were formerly approximately $200,000 a year not too long ago. They are currently $400,000 to $500,000 a year and are projected to go up as high as $2 million within the next 10 years for one particular year. After studying these clubhouse issues and our programming needs for the past 5 years, we have concluded that the south wing of our clubhouse is beyond its useful life and is functionally obsolete. Our membership has recently approved the most logical solution to this clubhouse problem, and that is the demolition and rebuild of the south wing of this clubhouse. We voted recently and received a mandate with a 64% approval. The mission for our project was to develop clubhouse facilities which are complementary to our championship golf course, and while also maintaining our traditional classic architecture of English Tudor style, and to provide a warm and timeless feel for the next 50 to 100 years. The project site will be located on our existing clubhouse site and will continue to maintain extensive setbacks with our adjoining neighbors, the Hackstacks and the Normans, and with University Boulevard. Lastly, I want to say that this project is consistent with the village vision of maintaining a safe, low-density residential rural community or residential community in a rural setting with open views and dark skies in the park-like environment. I've been an owner, property owner of Cherry Hills Village, in Cherry Hills Village for the past 18 years. And I personally, my family and I personally appreciate that village vision. We embrace it. And we want to thank you and the council members before you for maintaining that culture. I would now like to turn this over to Mr. Jay Valade, our architect, but I would be happy to answer any questions before I sit down. Thank you.
Thank you.
John, can I just check this for you?
Good evening, my name is Jay Valade. I'm from Finley Architects in Southport, Connecticut. We have been in business since 1984, specializing in high-end residential and clubhouse architecture all over the country. One of the things that we like to do is create a new clubhouse that's more of a second home for people as opposed to a kind of banquet facility or a different type of building that's not really about members, but about money. So what we like to do is make a second home for people. When we first started the project with the club and with the board, we looked at the old original clubhouse there built in 1922, and we said there was something really great about this old building that's there that's kind of been lost over the course of time with all the different additions that were put on. So what we wanted to do was kind of harken back to that and get back to that original clubhouse while still maintaining the need to update the member uses and the current membership level. So these are a couple of old pictures of the original clubhouse. As you can see, the old Tudor style, that kind of mixture of the brick and stone. And what we want to do is reinvigorate the new clubhouse with some of these older ideas, keep those old doors and put them back in. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel here, but what we want to do is give the members a really good experience. There's a lot of history here. We don't want to
forget that history. We want to enhance the history. I think Chris did a great job of really explaining all our pieces here. So I'm going to try to not repeat all the pieces that he said. But the overall lot that this is on is 107 acres, but the actual, the Cherry Hills Country Club has 5 different parcels that are about 188 acres all in total. But the one piece that we're talking about is the 107 acre big parcel. I know Chris already talked about the shaded areas here with the existing and the proposed. As you can see, we're trying to maintain this existing where it sits. We're really just enhancing the parking lot so we can get the new ramp down to the lower level, so we get all of the trash and the deliveries out of the public view, which necessitated the expansion of the parking lot. This is again, the landscape plan that Chris had shown. We did our bulk plane study, our building heights, all our setbacks, working within the regulations and keeping everything so that we didn't ask for any variances on that front. This slide shows the existing and the proposed of the 3 floors. By the time we're done, we're adding about 25,000 square feet, primarily in the basement, whereas Bill had discussed, there's a bunch of different rooms and it's like a little rabbit warren down there, and some of the spots aren't connected to the others. And so what we're trying to do is create a nice consistent space down there that can be back of house, but also enhance the member uses in the lower level. So the upper 3 plans are the existing with the green areas as the 2 remain. The pink and purple areas are the areas that we're going to demo, and the kind of teal areas are the renovated areas. So as we go to the lower versions, the lower level, the yellow is the new lower level with the teal again. The first floor right next to it has the new yellow south wing with the centerpiece of the teal to be renovated, and the men's locker room and pro shop and bag storage to stay as is. And then the second floor, right now, there's some offices up inside the existing roof of that south side. We're going to be, when we take it down, we want to enhance the member experience from that second floor as well, and create some member spaces up there. So that got larger. In total, it's about 13,000 square feet larger on the lower level, about 5,000 square feet on the first floor, and about 7,000 on the second floor. So that's our 25,000 square foot differential. As Chris had mentioned, here are the elevations, keeping that Tudor style. What we really wanted to do was, right now there's a bunch of different pitches on all the roofs, and the Tudor style kind of, it's there, but it's not true to the original, like those pictures we showed. So what we want to do is put a broader brush stroke on that and have it all consistent. So we've reworked the dormer, the gables throughout the building, and are trying to create a more consistent architecture there. So those are and these are a couple of screenshots, computer generated. That was, excuse me, this is the new porte cochere. This is the new covered porch walking out to the pool. This is the rear from the golf course, the west side. And this, excuse me, this is my video.
You should just, yep, right there.
Thank you. So we did a video of our model. So this is as you come in off University. The gatehouse kind of stays the same. Pardon you?
We're going through Zoom, so it's a little.
Okay.
It's a little bit crunchy.
choppy.
Yeah, sorry about that.
What we wanted to do was rearrange, the parking lot basically stays the same, but we wanted to reorient you with the porte cochere at the end of the parking lot, because right now it's off to the side. This is kind of taking you up the driveway, going through the port to share as your main entry. There's those doors to the right hand side there, and the brick detailing, the timber and the brick in the gables, and then some stucco and brick as well, kind of to break it up a little bit so it was not all monochromatic. This was our side entrance to the banquet and south side facilities. As we wrap around here, you'll see the lower level that walks out. There's currently a lower level that comes out there, but right now this will be connecting to the pool a lot better. It's going to feel more open and connected to the pool and the pool house, so that the two buildings kind of work in unison together. So downstairs, right now, there's not a lot of member space down there, but the lower level spaces I see right there are going to be fitness facilities and the kids club. As we wrap around the west side, we have our banquet facility, so the club can have larger events there when all members are in one spot. And then we have, as you wrap around, our regular daily dining facilities for the club. And what we're really trying to do is provide, on the plan, we're trying to provide some flexibility for the membership, because when they do have an event and take over the whole club with all the membership, we still want the people who didn't want to join that event to still have opportunities to dine and utilize the club in a way that right now they really can't because of the way that the club is set up. This is as we wrap around the side. So this is the existing, we're now looking at the existing north portion where the plan isn't really changing. We're just doing some cosmetic work on the outside to regularize the facade and get those gables so they're consistent throughout. Close to finish with the video. As we wrap around the north side that faces the driving range, we really didn't do much on that side. So the idea was, keep this thing to be consistent and feel like the Cherry Hills Country Club that the town and the village have been so used to over the last 100 years, and keep it as an icon for the town and really enhance that and make it even better than it is now, and not affect the dark sky ideas or anything like that, but just to enhance everything and make it something that both the club and the town can be proud of. I'm going to introduce John Woodward, who is the co-chair of the building committee.
Hi, and good evening, everyone. It's great to be here. Thank you for hearing us out. We're really proud of our club's history. We've had 13 national championship golf events and one of the most important Davis Cup competitions ever held. And we're trying to be respectful of that history by a project true to our architectural heritage. You saw the old Tudor pictures. I just love those things. I've got those in my office. We went through an extensive vetting process and an interview process to select Mark Finley architects. And as he said, they're from Southport, Connecticut, not exactly convenient, but the work that they do is first quality, all world class. And Jay and his partners are just terrific people to work with. We're thrilled to be working with them. We have over 220 members who are residents of the village. And I think Bill made a really good point. The neighbors that are proximate to our club, both on University and just north of the club itself, are all supportive of this project. We think that the partnership between Cherry Hills Village in its 75th year
and Cherry Hills Country Club as we approach our 100th year. It has been a terrific partnership, and we want to do what we can to maintain and enhance that partnership. We respectfully request your favorable approval, and I've got a couple of letters of support that I'd like to introduce to the record, if that's okay. Okay, please. So do I hand those to you?
Sure.
Okay.
You want them read?
They're short. I could read them, but no, that's okay. I think you get the idea.
No, we can pass them down as well.
Okay, that's whatever you guys like. I've got 2 more copies if you like those. Do you have any questions?
Yes, Councilor Cullen.
John, nice to see you. Thanks for putting together a top-notch presentation for us. Couple questions regarding your membership cap. Understand that what's come in front of us year after year have been applications for these expansions of our private clubs. And schools as well. We continually wrestle a little bit with allowing for the expansion of those facilities without necessarily accommodating for a cap, if you will, in the membership. So making an example here, for example purposes only, if you were to come back and to your membership, we approve this thing, you come back to your membership in a year and say, you know what, we really need the revenue, let's go to 900. Is there anything right now that you have internally in your bylaws or that we have in the form of a development agreement at the city that would stay intact, that allows some protection for the residents of the village, that we're not going to be seeing a country club that is overflowing with cars, not able to keep up with the water and sewer requirements, drainage becoming a problem because of the heavy usage, things like that? I think the answer is probably yes, because no club goes ahead and has such a
It would be a major undertaking to get that done. I can tell you that.
to get the approval to move that membership
Right.
cap up.
Yeah, culturally and by virtue of our bylaws. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be a major undertaking to get that done. And we build in a cap into the development agreement. It does allow some flexibility, but I can tell you right now that there is no support in this room by any member for doing anything close to doing.
And so that membership cap right now is at 720, is that right?
That's what we have in the development agreement.
Okay, and so right now you're hovering around 695, 700, something like that? Okay, fair enough. That's great, and that's a real small buffer, in fact, considering we've allowed for larger increases on other projects in the past. So that's satisfactory. Thank you. I've got a couple of questions. Did I see right when we were flying through the video? Is your back of house now underground, coming in from just next to the pool area?
Yes, yeah, we're gonna have an underground, a ramp that will go underground for deliveries, and, yeah.
That's great. I think my final question for now is, was there any opposition at all on this from your neighbors, from any of the residents of the village? I didn't see any in our council communication. Did we hear from anybody at your neighborhood meeting?
No, we not heard from anyone. So, we came tonight prepared for it, but no one said anything.
Great.
So, which is, yeah.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, you bet. Councilor
John.
John, when did this process start? How many years in the making?
Well, how long do you have? We've been trying various iterations of this process for, gosh, at least 5 years. And we've had failed attempts, one being more recent, a couple of years ago, where the architects and others were engaged and the process was moved forward, but the plan that was presented was not acceptable. And so Bill Bergner actually really led the effort with a lot of other help, but to kind of step back and say, okay, what do we do right? What do we do wrong? Let's take a fresh look at this. And frankly, it started with Bill and some very thoughtful work by a number of people, including architects, Finley from Connecticut. And I would say to you guys, take a look at their website. What they do is beautiful work, really beautiful, important work. But so to your point, Counselor, it's a lively process, a process that's kind of morphed over the last 5 years. This version we've been at for probably around 18 months.
And what's the duration for, to get the project finished?
We think that the construction period is something inside of 2 years. And so that's what we've allowed for in the development agreement, is a 2 year construction timeframe. We want to beat that as much as we can, but weather being what it is and so on, we allow for 2 years.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Councilor Brown?
Thank you, and thank you all for being here. We spend so many meetings where it's just us talking to ourselves, and so even though you're here, you know, and maybe you're not saying anything, but it was exciting to see so many people walk in the room who aren't planning to yell at us yet. I don't have a ton of questions. I did just want to make sure I understood correctly, though. Is Exhibit E the site plan agreement? Is this the proposed development agreement that we're talking about?
Correct.
Okay, then I just wanted to, not that it changes anything, but I want to be clear for the record. Section 3.3C, to your point, Dan, basically says that the current, it says the current membership is 720, and that they're allowed to increase by 20% of that number without prior consent. So it could go up in theory to 860 without any other prior approval. So I just want to.
That's more like what we've approved in the past.
Right.
I made that mention that was a very slim margin. That sounds more like what we've done in the past, is allowing for a 20% increase in growth.
So I just wanted to make sure that we're clear on that it's not a hard limit at 720.
May I interrupt? I'm sorry.
Sure.
This is consistent with the existing site plan agreement that we have with the city now. The numbers have not changed.
Yeah, absolutely, and it does not, it doesn't affect at least my interpretation of things, but I just wanted to make sure that, you know, nobody got the impression that we were limiting a hard cap of 720 in any way, shape, or form. I did have a quick question though. You know, the issues that always come up are parking and lighting. I think the lighting has been adequately addressed. I think the parking has been adequately addressed. What do you do? Because I know you have had several large events, and let's not talk about the PGA events where you're, you know, those are above and beyond. But when you have larger events on your own property, you have a lot of space there. How do you accommodate, or how can you accommodate parking that might exceed the paved spaces that you have?
So good question. We have two spots. We have the grass area by our tennis courts, which is just, you know, kind of fronts on the university. And I think we can get about 60 cars there, 65 cars there. And then we have our driving range. And we can park a lot of cars on our driving range. It's a very big space, but easily a couple of hundred cars on our driving range. And that's part of the plan, is to use those spaces as and when necessary.
Great. And how often would you say you've had to do that?
Well, you know, in a COVID world, who knows? But in a pre-COVID world, maybe 3 times a year. 4th of July being one big one. Chris pointed out.
Great, thank you. I've always been, and we've had this conversation around other things as well. I would much rather have, for those rare peak occurrences, I'd much rather have that than a huge paved parking lot that doesn't get used 80% of the time. So I really appreciate that. And the numbers, just to clarify, you've already said it, but I want to make sure it's in the record that the membership numbers and that the agreement around the membership is staying the same and is not changing. I think that's an important point. And as far as traffic in and out of the club, there is already a traffic light at your entrance, correct? And that will remain and not change. So I think that addresses all of my questions. It's very exciting for your club. Congratulations to all of you and to everyone who worked on it. It represents an enormous amount of work, and hats off to you.
Councilor Wheel?
Well, I came in with a number of questions to clarify, but between a great write-up and some good dialogue, good questions, you've answered them all. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilor Spotty?
Yes, first of all, thank you very much for working closely with the city to get everything addressed properly. So,
You know what, and our architect brought up today what a pleasure it's been to work with Chris and his team, so kudos to these guys.
thank you. We always love it when, both parties can work very nicely together and make it work. So kudos to both teams and beautiful design and, I wish you speedy and on budget construction.
Amen.
No questions.
Thank you, sir. So, is there anything more?
A little more, Councilor Joey?
No, I was going to
Oh, no, well, I just like to add.
Public hearing?
Oh, public hearing.
Oh, public hearing. I just wanted to add my own comment. It's a beautiful project. It's a real asset to the community. Thank you and good luck. And it's, we really appreciate all the work you've done and we look forward to using it. I did have a question. What is a 2-year construction period? How's the club going to be used during that construction period?
That's still a work in progress. We're not sure what we can keep open practically, safely, and budget-wise, so we're working on that right now, and I can't tell you the answer just yet, but we'll know soon. We're gonna need to know soon. So, and it's complicated, because we're gonna be upgrading a lot of life safety systems in our north end, as well as putting in all the new stuff in the south end, so.
golf operations.
Oh, yeah, well, the golf course we're not gonna shut down our golf course for this project. That would be, we would be really endangering ourselves.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful project.
Yep.
So we have some public comment now session. Number one signed up is Mike. Come.
Good evening. My name is Michael Compa. I reside at 5 Cherry Hills Drive, which is 40 feet from Cherry Hills Country Club. I've been proud to be a resident of Cherry Hills Village for 37 years, a member of Cherry Hills Country Club for 20 years, and a nearly adjacent property owner for 12 years. You probably know the history of this area, and you know that in 1922, a group of prominent Denver citizens acquired a tract of land just down the street and organized a club for private and social and athletic purposes, as they put it, and they named it the Cherry Hills Club. 23 years later, a community grew up around Cherry Hills Club, adopted the club's name, and in 1945, officially incorporated as Cherry Hills Village. According to the city's master plan, the clubhouse grounds were designed by the same architect who later authored the first master plan for the city. The city's website includes a mission statement, which reads in part, it is the mission of the city of Cherry Hills Village to preserve and enhance the pastoral environment, the low-density residential housing, the high quality of services that exist in the community, and I think this is the most important part, to promote an atmosphere that contributes to a sense of community. Coincidentally, the leaders of our club who are here tonight, who have invested so much time, effort, and capital into the proposal before you, also developed a mission statement. It reads in part, to enrich and preserve the traditions of Cherry Hills Country Club by developing and maintaining high-quality clubhouse facilities. These enhanced facilities will better serve our membership and promote memorable experiences for current members and generations to come. I think these two statements are very much alike. The city and the club share a name, a location, and a community that we all value very highly. Over the years, I've come to appreciate that almost without exception, that which benefits the city also serves to benefit the club. And that which benefits the club also benefits the city. Our membership is proud that our club is part of Cherry Hills Village. There's not another municipality in Colorado that could be a better fit. Similarly, I would hope the city is proud to be home to Cherry Hills Country Club. one of the finest clubs in the United States. The site plan amendment and conditional use application before you this evening will serve to benefit our community and our membership, which, as John mentioned, includes some 220 families who are members of Cherry Hills Country Club, and who use the club to enjoy golf, tennis, swimming, and socializing, use it as a place to make new friendships and to continue old ones, to celebrate important milestones like weddings, anniversaries, birthdays, graduations, and even fun celebrations of life. This plan constitutes a major capital investment in a prominent and important facility with a timeless design on a major land parcel in the city. It will enhance the experience and the reputation of the club, and at the same time generate significant additional tax revenue for the city, while placing virtually no increased demands on the school, fire, police, or other services provided by the city. Further, we believe it will serve to enhance the quality of Cherry Hills Village. We are pleased that both proposals presented here tonight received unanimous support of staff and planning commission. We hope you will take their recommendations into consideration along with the things we just mentioned. I've spent quite a number of evenings in my career at public meetings seeking approval for various land use projects. In my experience, and I'm sure yours in Cherry Hills Village, it's very unusual to have no opposition at a public meeting. Seems there is always somebody who can find a reason to oppose almost anything. In my world, the fact that there's not a single dissenting voice here tonight is the equivalent of an overwhelming endorsement of this proposal by the Cherry Hills Village community. We at Cherry Hills Country Club truly believe this is a win-win proposition for the city and the club that deserves the support of the community. And for that reason, we respectfully request you vote in favor of the proposals before you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cole?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Buzz Coble. I live at 3751 South Gilman Street. I think Mike Compa pretty well captured it all. He just lives a short way from me. I'm a stone's throw away. So this will be rhetorical and probably a little emotional regarding tradition and legacy, but there's no more special place in the world for our family than Cherry Hills Village and Cherry Hills Country Club. We were the first fourth generation family that has belonged to the club. Copeland Company has developed 5 communities in Cherry Hills Village, starting with Old Charleau in 1955. Some years later, Cherry Ridge right across the street, and we finished up at Cherry Hills Park, just up the street. There's a reason why my dad saw many years ago, this is the place to build communities. My parents lived in Cherry Hills Village for 45 years adjacent to the country club. And like I say, I personally live a stone's throw away, as do several of my kids live in Cherry Hills Village. For a little more legacy, I thought we'd get a kick out of this. I'm on the Heritage Committee that's working on the book that's going to celebrate the 100th year. And doing some digging, I found a letter dated December 15, 1961, from Horace Duncan, the manager, to Kernan Weckbaugh, the president of the club. I'm just going to read a couple of sentences. Cherry Hills has always been a fine club, but now, referring to the new improvements. But now, more than ever, we're established as a leader in our field and have facilities for the membership that are unmatched. The use of the club by its members has increased tremendously, and I feel without a doubt it will continue to grow and expand. Well, those facilities that were built 61 years ago have, as mentioned, far outlived their usefulness. And we are certainly trying to stay on the cutting edge and doing the same thing that group of leaders of the club did many years ago. So, as mentioned, the village, the club, and their vision are hand in glove. We want to keep it this way. So I'll just conclude by saying no more special place than where we are right now. And obviously I encourage your strong support of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Mark Dorman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief. It's hard to add anything to what Buzz and Mike have said, but my name is Mark Dorman. My wife and I live at 14 Cherry Hills Drive, which I believe is the house most proximate to the club on the north side. I'm here tonight to express my strong support for the project and just also thank the project committee led by Bill and John for their hundreds of hours and our architects for really getting this right. Making 720 or 500 members agree on anything is really difficult, and this group has done an exceptional job. And I'd also like to extend my gratitude to the staff for their spirit of partnership, the planning group, and all of you that have served us so well in the city council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then Joanne. Oh.
Hello, I'm Joan Waddles. I live at 16 Village Road. And like many other families of the 220 who are members of Cherry Hills and live in Cherry Hills Village, I believe I'm probably one of many that moved here because the club was here. I belonged to the club about 25 years and I've lived in Cherry Hills for 18. And Cherry Hills Village and Cherry Hills Country Club has become a perfect combination for our family, and I've raised 7 children here. So I encourage your support of this new development. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on the public hearing? If not, I'll declare the public hearing closed at 8:20. So it's the pleasure of council. Any other discussion? Any motions?
Just a comment. Thank you all for showing up. It means a lot to us. You are a wonderful member of this community. And you've got a long-standing tradition of being a wonderful member of this community. You'll continue to do it. Thank you very much for investing the time and the money to continue to create a first-class environment for your country club.
Been a long time coming. I move to approve the request by Cherry Hills Country Club for a conditional use permit to allow for the clubhouse renovation located at 4125 South University Boulevard.
Second.
A motion and a second, then it's voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
That passes. Next, we need another motion.
I move to approve the request by Cherry Hills Country Club for the submitted site plan and associated development agreement to allow for the clubhouse renovation located at 4125 South University Boulevard.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
I was thinking you should turn it out.
Send everybody home. Congratulations, good luck. You can't wait to be able to come over and see the completed building. I think that's the end of our new business. We go on to reports now. I have just a couple. Things to mention. I was on a Metro Mayor's caucus call last week, and we were discussing several things. One was about who was meeting in person and who was meeting by Zoom. Virtually every other city is meeting by Zoom. So, and I think that it occurred to me that our Zoom were very good and very useful. I think very productive. I like to have public meetings like this in person if we can. I think it's important, that we have these people here. But I think as long as we're not having a public meeting, it seems to me a good rule might be to go back to Zoom when we don't have a public meeting. So I just want to throw that out to you for consideration. Let me know either today or either in your reports or later. We can decide about returning to Zoom. I did hear also today on for some reason the CDC came out and said that they predicted that Colorado would have an increase in COVID cases. They're predicting. I have no idea why, but
with everybody back to school and everything, it might be wise to do it. We don't have to. So I'm inclined to have Zoom unless we have a full experience. Give you your thoughts. We also had the mayor's caucus talk, the long discussion about the Gallagher amendment. That's gonna be a big deal for people. If the referendum doesn't pass, a lot of these cities are gonna be in big world of hurt because simply put, the business values are going down, commercial properties are going down, and that's going to force the residential down as well, and it's going to be real difficult for them. It could be, it could affect us as well. We'll see how those things go. So a lot of discussion about that, about how that's going to be presented and rolled out, and the effort behind it. It did pass the legislature on a bipartisan effort pretty strongly as far as this, to refer this to the voters. Also, a discussion about Wayfair, and that's coming up too, and the state is really taking some action now on how that Wayfair is going to work and how the sales tax are going to be done. So more to come on that. We also talked in the Metro Mayor's Caucus about the effect on budgets. We're fortunate. I mean, a lot of other cities are expecting 10, 15, 20% decrease. They're having to do multiple budgets for next year because they just don't know where the revenues are going to be coming in. I think we're lucky that, Jesse, you may be fortunate that our numbers look pretty good right now. So as far as sales go, we're probably lucky in that regard. Because a lot of our income revenues does come from sales and use taxes. There's a couple of things too. I know that there was a meeting, I think the city manager had, maybe Jay with Hillcrest, you might want with the Hillcrest Sanitation District, if you want to update us on that. I've been in touch with Crown Castle on cell phone, with Councilor Blum and Councilor Wheel, we'll set up a meeting with them and talk. I think it's particularly interesting now that Sprint has merged and with T-Mobile and see how that affects them and how that's going to affect what they're doing. But we really want to get an idea of what the coverage is in the city, and they have some of those now. So, talk to them. So that's coming. We'll set up a meeting with them. And lastly, the Cml Annual Conference is going to be next week by Zoom on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So I'll be attending most of that from home. This is to replace the annual meeting that was supposed to be in Westminster that was canceled. So, and then later on, it'll be in September, the attorneys section will be on board from CML as well. That's my report.
Just two quick things. Highland Canal is in the middle of a 71 miles and 71 days walk. If anyone is participating in that, started 2 weeks back, and you can do any little segments you want, whenever you want. There happens to be one coming up this Friday in Greenwood Village. It's our closest one. I don't think we have one walking through Cherry Hills proper, but it's a 5-mile walk. It's this Friday under the moonlight at 7:30 p.m. Jay maybe could mention a little bit more on this, but Quincy undergrounding has kind of started off a little bit, but not really. So maybe you can mention that when it comes around the department reports. That's all.
Thank you. A quick report. I am working with staff to understand our procedures in promoting good pollinator practices. And it's an opportunity just to look at and perhaps come up with a resolution that we are supportive as a city of good pollinator practices. So I'm just sharing that with you. It's in development stage.
Nothing to report.
Dr. Cog meeting's been canceled through tomorrow. Just no agenda, week agenda item. Cherry Hills Farm HOA took a survey of the neighbors, all the residents, and they got very strong support for the new location plan. We'll start to develop that so that we'll have something to look at. That's all I have.
Before about a comment, I was going through all the package provided and came across the police report. And I started reading again some of these comments that have been provided to our police department by some of the citizens. And I think it is worth to note that, during this time where a lot of the police departments and police officers, men and women, are sort of under scrutiny and a lot of pressure from so many different angles, I think it's important that I want to just point to a couple of these comments that were provided by our citizens. One speaks to the value of the safety you foster in our community. Another one says, that it goes about the very professional behavior, should through empathy. Another one talks about commitment to his job, referring to one of the officers. Another one, thank you for your professionalism. These are really amazing statements that are coming from our citizens to our police departments. So kudos to our police departments and kudos to our citizens for appreciating what these men and women are doing. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Yes, I have a few things for council tonight. First of all, I wanted to highlight a very interesting and exciting opportunity that has presented itself to the city. On August 7th, Natalie Anderson submitted a letter of interest to the city regarding the future of Quincy Farm. And I forwarded that request that weekend to City Council. I'm not bringing this up for us to get into a bunch of details or questions because frankly, it's so early in the process. There's not a lot of answers to these questions yet. But I can tell you that the conservation easement would continue to run with the project regardless of this proposal. Natalie has some due diligence on her side that she needs to do initially, really before there could be any continued conversations on that. There's some questions regarding state tax implications, the entity that received that title, those kinds of things. The committee, Quincy Farm Committee met this morning actually, and they made a couple of recommendations that are going to be on your next agenda on September 1st regarding the status of the master plan in light of this recommendation. They are going to be recommending to you that the master plan be hit the pause button while this opportunity is explored. And their second recommendation to you as council is that you fully explore it. That it has enough merit that it warrants a full exploration of the opportunity. The staff is going to continue to maintain the property, whether that's the landscaping maintenance, if there's any life safety issues or any other things that need repair, we will continue to do that. We are still working on the caretaker question that council asked us to look into. We've gotten a lot more information, and I think we will be able to bring back some potential cost implications for some of this. I'm not sure exactly when yet, so I don't want to commit to a date here tonight, but we are getting closer. We are going to bring that back. So with all that said, I think it's certainly an exciting opportunity, and stay tuned. I think there's going to be an opportunity for Natalie to come before you once she's got some of these due diligence questions answered herself and make a presentation. And then I know I believe it's September 1st, we'll be presenting the two committee recommendations that were done today. So, I don't know if there's any questions. I'm not sure if I'll have many answers, but it's a very noteworthy thing I want council to just be aware of.
Do you have any time horizon for resolution of the estate tax issues and all the other due diligence items?
I know that Natalie is hopeful that it could be within the next couple of weeks, but realistically, I think my wife is an estate planner, and so it could certainly take a couple of months. So.
Thanks.
Okay. That's just for the initial due diligence portion on her side. We would certainly obviously have a lot of conversations and back and forth on, once that's completed, then we would sort of begin our process. Okay, so moving on. I did want to highlight for council another item that we will likely be bringing to you is from another one of your boards and commissions, planning and zoning.
has kicked around, they have not voted, but they have kicked around the possibility of recommending to you that we hit the pause button on the master plan. They have been discussing the fact that they've made some progress on the survey, but there's only so far they can go without having community-wide meetings. And I think some of the comments that I've heard are that there's no need to rush it, and the validity of the plan, whether it will stem from its public involvement, and if there's any clouds over that, it clouds the entire plan. So they have not voted on that though, however, so stay tuned. That might be coming your way soon. You might have noticed this week, and the chief presented some great information in the weekly report last week about the schools starting this week. And there's some, this week, I believe it's a phased approach for a grade every day across the street at the elementary school. And then Kent Denver is starting, I believe, not this week, but next week. And they are not starting until 9, which we all call that good news. It's all phase the openings a little bit. So we'll see what the police department has done great work with the elementary ahead. I think they've done all what we can do to prepare for that next week. But it might have a net increase in traffic. We'll see. I believe we also have some directors who have some reports as well. Yes, I'm sorry, I have one more before we jump over. Thank you, Laura, for reminding me. We have had some follow-up on a previous item regarding streaming study sessions. If you recall, we discussed that prior. It is no cost to start streaming the study sessions. So at the next study session, we're just going to start taking advantage of that opportunity, since it's literally no cost, and there seems to be widespread support among the city council.
Quick question, is that also recorded then, or just live streamed?
Yes. So with that said, I will turn it over to the directors for any reports they may have.
I guess I'll go first. We have received the cost back from XL and CenturyLink for the underground project on Quincy. They are both well within the numbers we have budgeted. The XL cost is under what we have in the 1%, so that will be fully covered. And CenturyLink was about half of what we had estimated for that. CenturyLink and XL will bring those to City Council to sign those agreements on September 1st. So we'll get that on the new business for them. When we contacted Comcast, when we told them we were moving forward with this, we haven't heard from them. The next thing I know, we were approving a right-of-way permit. So Comcast has begun, even though City Council has not yet approved the rest of the undergrounding. So if you see Comcast out there, I think it's great. They're just trying to get ahead of the game, so they're not, fighting for space in the right-of-way with XL and Crown Castle will be meeting with XL next week to go over the small portion of their lines that need to go underground. There is one cell tower in this area that will not be moved for this project. So we'll be bringing that to council as soon as we can on September 1st.
Jay, did you have any feedback regarding this sewer district meeting that we had?
Well, we met with Hillcrest and we talked to them about, what the city can do to help facilitate that. There is 4 different districts 5 districts in that area in the northeast corner of the city that all utilize Hillcrest's main sewer line. So we talked to him about some processes, and we will talk and get them some information about who might take those over. Talk to him about the need to upgrade before anybody's really going to look at your system. So there's been a little bit of progress, and I've got some homework still to do on getting some contacts and see how they may facilitate that.
The Cherry Hill Village Cares Business Assistance Program app that we have will be running in the Villager this week and then again next week. And that program starts on Monday. So I have had a few calls by businesses that are not in Cherry Hills Village. So had to explain that. I added a little more language to our website in case that's where they're finding it. Just saying that they have to be based in Cherry Hills Village and kind of directed them back to Arapahoe County in case their program is still open. But so far that's it. So just 3 or 4 calls from businesses outside of Cherry Hills. So I'll keep you posted and let you know the applications that come through.
Great, thank you.
I'm excited to say we're getting into the final weeks of our construction here with John Mead Park. So you'll notice our construction trailer left the parking lot today. And one of our final puzzle pieces for the play area is our sideways tree climber. That's coming next Thursday. So we're really starting to wrap up. We're very excited. That being said, unfortunately, we won't be able to have a large grand opening. 75th Anniversary Committee and PTRC have both decided to put that on hold. And PTRC has added a possible grand opening celebration to their list of events for 2021. So once we know it's safe to do that, we'll plan on having a larger celebration, inviting all of our donors and OSTAB and everyone who's been involved with the park. So what PTRC discussed at their last meeting in the meantime that I'm looking for council's feedback on is really just having a smaller scaled back ribbon cutting with council and with PTRC ahead of a regular council meeting, like during a regular study session time slot. So if that suggestion is agreeable to council, we'll go ahead and get that scheduled, but I was just looking for your feedback on that idea.
A quick question, what are the fish going in?
So we already have some bass that swam themselves into the one pond, and we have met with CPW and sometime this fall, but I need to update them on the fact that we have small bass now, which might change the order that they stock the ponds in. But it would be over this fall and then in a series over the next couple of years.
I took a peek over the fence when I got here today. It's looking great. Just nice work to everyone. I'm so excited for it. When I noticed though that there's a lot of there's still a lot of dirt, which it looks like there's seed and the geese, and I read all that. So are we going to let people, are we going to restrict access to that so that that can?
That's part of what we probably will. That's part of what we're working through with the contractor too, and how we'll be taking the fencing down and whether then we'll choose to sort of cordon off those areas. We do, I'm not sure if that was sent out, if the geese were sent out on a Friday update or anything like that, but okay. Yeah, so now that we do have the dog service coming to keep the geese off, the grass is doing much better. So we're hoping that that will continue, but yes, we'll be doing everything that we can to protect the grass as it comes up and not necessarily give everybody free reign over the native grass areas.
Cherry Creek School District has encouraged teachers to be outside as much as possible. I don't know if coming across the street is allowed. I know that was used to be considered a field trip and there aren't any field trips or anything, but if that is a possibility for them, is that amenable to the city to have, you know, is there small groups of people over there? Do they need any kind of permit or anything, or they just?
I would think if they wanted to sort of reserve the shelter to make sure nothing else was happening, that might be a possibility. But honestly, I think, yeah, they should be able to just walk over and use the space.
That's an option.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, well, the election information, anything?
We're still in nomination period, so next Monday, the 24th, will be the last day nomination petitions can be submitted. There's also a write-in candidate affidavit deadline later next week. But if we only have no more than one candidate per position and no items on the ballot, no measures on the ballot, then staff will be bringing to the September 1st council meeting a resolution canceling the election.
City attorney?
Did the chief
Or the chief, I'm sorry, chief, excuse me.
Not a problem. Just a couple of quick things on tomorrow morning and then in the evening. With our city attorney, we will be completing the required training for House Bill 217. And then we will also assign the post-training that's come out too. I think some people have already looked into that, just to let you know that Kathy and her partner have been working really hard on this and we'll get that tied up. We had an unusual request for a birthday celebration. They're usually younger, but down on South Lane, we had two twins celebrating their 90th birthday party. John Miller formed by three, didn't know I was going to mention it, but he kind of led the parade down there. And one of the ladies who's a bit mobile than the other, to go along with what you said, Mr. Savave, she came in and brought them some cakes, and she just literally almost teared up with thanks for our participation in that. And what my feeling is that if we have units clear and they have the time, just go on up there and have a good time. But that was really a special one. So that happened. And then lastly, your favorite attendees, the Abrams, Mrs. Abrams called me today. She said, I won't even be watching tonight. I had a couple other things to do, but I will watch tomorrow morning. So I needed to make sure I pass that along to you all. Yeah. Thank you.
Good. Caesar?
Oh, I just echo what the chief just said. We have put in a lot of work on Bill 217. It is a massive piece of legislation with giant consequences for the city itself, not to mention the officers. And I just want to commend the department because there's a bare minimum required for the training, but they've asked to understand on a much more comprehensive level. So that's what we're delivering. It's that's a 2.5 hour session set for tomorrow, and probably come away with more questions to follow up with. But that's a big deal right now for the city as well.
It might be something, is any of this possible to present to council, kind of highlights of that time so we know what the changes are? Maybe bring forward so we know and we can talk to our citizens when they say, what are the changes?
Absolutely.
I think we can do that. It'd probably be easier to even just provide a syllabus of what's going on. We have made all of the changes into our policy manual and just like to get through some of this first, but yes, I mean, the easy answer is yes. I just don't know what that looks like for you, but I don't think you need 2.5 hours like we're going to be doing twice tomorrow.
We promise not to get into the weeds, but there's a lot of like things that we can.
It's a short one. Sure. All right. Anything else?
I move the future.
Yeah, thank you for coming. See you everybody next time.